Hey guys, so today is a really exciting day for me. After being here for a couple of months, I finally get to plant my first vegetable garden. Now, this vegetable garden is going to be in a temporary location, and if you've been following me since I've been here, I set up a temporary no-dig, traditional no-dig vegetable garden on the opposite side of the house of where the actual vegetable garden will eventually be sometime this winter. Now, this is the first traditional in-ground no-dig garden that I have done. And I did it the traditional way, like Charles Dowding teaches. I've done no-dig in raised beds. It does have its advantages, but not quite the same way as in-ground no-dig gardening. So the first thing I did was, about a month ago, I put down cardboard to block the weeds. I put down some wire to block the gophers. I think the wire came first, then the cardboard. And then I put down 6 layers of compost. And we're planting directly into that compost. And then I put drip on that. And if you didn't see my drip system video, this was the last video I did. So if you've thought of drip, if you've been intimidated by drip, watch that video. And I think after watching it, you won't be anymore. So today we're going to be planting some of the transplants, the seedlings that I grew indoors under the grow lights. They've been hardening off for the last few days. And I'm also going to be planting pea seeds directly into the ground. Let's go. So here is the location. I've got 3 rudimentary terraces, no borders on them at all. And would you believe just in this small section is pretty much the same space, a little bit less, but getting close to the same space that I had for vegetable planting in the backyard of our last house. So let me take you up to the deck and show you how the seedlings are looking. I did a video, a couple of weeks ago about how I was doing them a little bit differently in rock wool. And I have to say, some of the best seedlings that I've grown in a while. So we've got Dutch cabbage, Napa cabbage, cilantro, and purple sprouting broccoli. And we've got tennis ball lettuce, which was actually very spotty in terms of germination. I've got bull's blood beets. This is giant Nobel spinach, which actually looks like it's already bolting. I cannot grow spinach to save my life, especially from seed. I don't know. I'm going to plant it and we'll see what happens. And then this is Swiss chard. So I'm also going to be planting things from seed, definitely peas and lettuces. I'll look through my seeds and see what else I want to plant directly in the ground. I am limited on space. Even though I have 1.5 acres, I have prepared, those 3 terraces to grow this year, this fall. Little update on the future vegetable garden where we're terracing over on the other side of the house. I am just about done with the trenches. I didn't hire someone, and here's why. The first trench, the tractor can't get to. As I was doing that video and talking about how I needed to hire somebody, I was thinking in my head, why do I not have the tractor over here doing this? So I called my friend with the tractor, Bill, over last weekend, and he said, as far as 2 of the trenches, he can get into with the tractor and do. The third one wouldn't work with the tractor, so I do have to do that one by hand. He actually grabbed a shovel and started helping me. So that's almost done. I think I've got three more feet to do. And then he's available on the 30th to come over with the tractor and start moving a lot of dirt where I need it to get these terraces started. And then I'm going to start building the wall shortly after that. So I'm looking into options right now for the style of wall and the color that I want to match the Mediterranean theme that area will become. Back to seeds. So last year I planted 3 different varieties of peas. King Tut with its purple pods and pink and purple blossoms was really cool. It was fun. They were pretty. I don't remember the third variety, but the first variety is my great standby, my favorite, Lincoln. And tasting all three of those varieties, I still say Lincoln is my favorite, both for cooking and for eating fresh. So because I'm limited on space, Lincoln will be the only pea that I plant this fall. So I'm going to get to that first. I'm going to plant a row of peas all the way along the backside of those 3 terraced beds. And then I'll probably use cattle panels to have them grow up. That's given me the most success. Although last year I had them grow up my tomato trellis, but I don't have a tomato trellis in here. So I think cattle panels are going to be the way I go this fall. We're off to a really great start this year in terms of rain. So we're hoping for a really wet winter. Not really wet, but above average, so we can pull ourselves out of the drought. So, you know, fingers crossed that will happen. So I plant my peas 1 inch deep and about 1 inch apart. The package usually says about 4 inches apart. I find that if I plant 2 seeds in the same hole every 2 inches or 1 seed every inch, I get much better coverage, and they seem to do fine. They don't really compete for nutrients as long as I feed them. So getting more harvest out of a smaller space, if it doesn't hurt the plant, you know. I had about 100 seeds sown in my bed last year, and it was a 10-foot row. I don't measure, I just drop them in about 1 inch apart. So when you're deciding on where you're going to plant things, always pay attention to where the sun is. And taller things like broccoli, cauliflower, some cabbages, you want to make sure they're put in a spot that's not going to shade whatever's on the opposite side of them from the sun, because they're taller. I think I'm going to reserve this bottom area down there for lettuces, which can take a bit of shade. So right at the end of this second tier, I'm going to put 2 rows of broccoli. So you can see with these cubes, everything is self-contained. Now there's a lot of broccoli in here. 1, 2, 4, 5, 7 plants. And this is the hard part. Not sure why I planted so many. I'm gonna take all but the strongest 2. I'll leave 2. And then I will probably thin it to 1 once I see that one of those 2 is pretty strong. There are the strongest 2 of the bunch. I'm going to put broccoli about 18 inches apart. They grow into pretty decent sized plants. Now, a good organic gardening principle and companion planting strategy is to mix and match the types of plants that you grow together. So broccoli is a brassica, and I'm putting a group in here, but I also want to mix it up and plant something that's not in the brassica family among them, so that brassica pests like the cabbage looper, the cabbage white moth, they don't just fly over and see a huge smorgasbord altogether of their favorite food. Mix it up a little bit, it confuses them, so you have less pest issues. I'm going to be planting a row of cilantro along the front here, and I'm going to leave space for some flowers as well to bring in the pollinators. Cilantro, in addition to being a different type of plant than a brassica, has a definite odor that is going to help mask the odor of the brassicas in the area, because a sense of smell is something that pests use to find their way to the plant. So if you can mask that odor with a different odor, something they don't care about, then you kind of trick them into staying away. Now, I am not going to thin these cilantro. They can grow just fine, 2 to 3 per spot. I love cilantro. The problem here is it usually, especially if you plant it in the spring, it's a very short growing season. So planting it in the fall like this, when the weather is just cooling down, it's going to help it to not bolt. Cilantro bolts really, really easily. So other than the flowers to bring in the pollinators, this bed, I'm going to call it quits. And I'm going to put a layer of straw over it to hold in the moisture, keep any weeds down that make it through the cardboard. And then I'll come back and water it thoroughly. And after that, the drip's going to take care of it. So when it comes to what straw you're going to pick, if you can find an organic feed store that has organic straw, all the better. Also, there is some straw you can buy online, like on Amazon. It is a little bit more expensive than this. I got an entire bale of straw for 12 bucks. This will most likely have some seeds in it of whatever grass this is. The thing I found with straw is that the weed seeds will come up, but they're very easy to pull out, and they really just sprout the one time. If you get them all, don't let them go to seed, obviously, then you should be fine. Just gonna spread enough straw to cover a couple of inches thick. Where I planted the peas, I'm gonna go a little thinner. I'm also gonna go a little thinner around the base of the broccoli and the cilantro. As it grows, I can fill in, but you always wanna keep a little gap between the straw and the stem of the plant, just to prevent rotting. As you are putting the straw down, you're going to inadvertently cover these seedlings up a little bit. Make sure they can just kind of peek out, and they will find themselves, they will figure it out. They'll grow up toward the sun, and they'll be pushing through here in no time. Just make sure they're not completely covered. You need a little green sticking out to help them find their way. And make sure you water it in really well, especially if there's no rain coming that day. They really need to push out those first new roots to get established into nice, moist soil. I cannot tell you how happy this makes me to have the first vegetable bed planted at our new house. Our homestead is finally going to be producing edible crops. I don't have to tell you if you're a gardener, because you already know. We've got a lot of brown around here. And that's the thing that's bothered me about moving and having this channel and having a lot of you kind of coming on board new. I don't know if you ever knew what it looked like at our old house, but at our old house, everything was lush, everything was green. It was just easy. And then here, lots of brown, lots of eucalyptus trees. It's not necessarily the same feeling yet. So I hope all the brown doesn't bother you. At least now we have the promise of green. I'm going to keep going on the next 2 beds now. In this smaller bed, I'm going to be planting carrots and lettuce. Now, carrots are taller than lettuce, so they're going to go along the back here, and then the lettuce will be up front. Now, I'm going to be planting carrots. If you watch my other channel, Next Level Gardening, you know that carrots need constant moisture before they germinate. If they dry out, they will stop the germination process. The problem with that is they also do not like to be covered with any type of soil. As soon as they germinate, they need the light. So we're going to use a small piece of wood. I'm going to plant a little area of carrots the size of this piece of wood. So I'm going to put some finer compost on the top. Same size as the wood. This is because carrot seeds are so small, I don't want them to be lost in any of the nooks and crannies with the rougher gauge compost. Now, carrot seeds are really small, and you're probably going to have to thin them. So I'm not really worried too much about the spacing right now. I'm just going to kind of scatter them over the area. And they're going to be, these are small carrots. This is new Carota. They're very small in terms of length, and they're small around too. So you can fit a lot more in a space. Gently spray the area with water. And that's going to do two things. That is going to, of course, moisten the ground, which carrots need to germinate. It's also going to help bring the seeds in contact with the soil itself. Now, all we have to do is place the board on top of it, and that's going to hold the moisture in. These seeds take 12 to 18 days to germinate. So in about a week, I'm going to start coming out here every day, lifting the board, see if there's any germination. And by germination, I mean a little root coming out and a tiny little sprout. When you see that, take off the board. You're done with it. You can put a very fine covering of the straw mulch and let the carrots grow up through that. And that's a great way to get your carrots started off strong. I'm going to reserve this extra back area here for another round of carrots. So I'll get these up and growing. Maybe when they're 2 inches tall, I'll start another batch here. That way I'll have a successive harvest. In the front area, I'm going to be doing a mix of Cosmic Crimson lettuce from Baker Creek and a spicy mesclun that I'm just going to kind of sprinkle throughout just to add some variety to salads. And I'm going to do this in the same, not with the board, but in small areas. Every 2 weeks, I'm going to sprinkle some more seeds, so I'll have a successive harvest. These are all cut and come again. So the first one will be ready to cut. I'll cut it down. A few days after that, the next one will be ready to cut. I'll cut it down, so on and so forth. The first section will be growing back while I'm cutting the other sections. Lettuce doesn't take very long to germinate. It's one of the easiest things that you can start off with as a new gardener. I'm actually just going to plant a row in this section here. Just rake it up a little bit. I'm going to cover the lettuce seed with about 1/4 inch of that the finer grade compost. I'm going to put on this straw pretty loosely just so the carrots or the lettuce can get light as soon as it pops through and won't have a problem working its way through a thick layer of straw. Just enough to shade the ground a little bit and keep it moist. The last 3 months have had their fill of frustrations, fear, and just wondering if we could handle life on the farm. But now, getting my hands back in the soil, that part of me deep down, the part of me that was crazy passionate enough to move for the first time out of the county where I was born, leave the house and garden that I had known my whole life, and bring my family here to a piece of land that was 10 times bigger than I had ever known. That part of me was still holding the spark, and being here in the moment with these tiny plants, this rich compost just waiting to nourish their little roots and give us our very first harvest. That spark has reignited the passion and my confidence that while it may take some time, this property will be every bit the property we left behind, and then some.